What is good, y'all? Kip up here, and here we are for a little bit of a discussion on the Mega Metagross suspect test. Now, I do realize I'm a little bit late on this because the suspect test just ended. No, I did not get Rex, but I was just kind of messing around trying to, more or less for the fun of it. But what I'm here for now is just a little discussion as to what I think will rise in usage depending on how the suspect goes, along with a couple mons that I believe could possibly be suspected in the future after this. Now, I'm going to start with the if banned part of this, and by the way, at this point, I do believe Metagross should be banned. It does have some checks, well, some soft checks at that. I'm talking, and if we go over to the if it stays part, you'll see some of those. We see Ferrothorn, Rotom-Wash, Mega Scizor, and Tangrowth as main defensive switches. Another softer check would be something like Mew, unless it's running Pursuit, then rest in peace. But I feel like those are more of the softer checks to Metagross. Now, people have said that it is bulky, but it doesn't have reliable recovery. It gets worn down to hazards, things like that. And while I do agree with that, Lando normally can't switch in, especially on Mega Evolution, because Intimidate won't come off, or Intimidate won't affect it due to Clear Body. It has pretty good coverage. I know it kind of can only run 4 moves. Like, you know, it has so many viable moves. HP Fire even to hit Scizor. You can pick between Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Zen Headbutt, Agility, Earthquake. Always run Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash is always on it. Even Bullet Punch, Hammer Arm. Moves like that, you can't just throw every single move on a Pokemon, you know? Obviously, you had to pick between, you know, just 4. And that's one big issue with Mega Metagross. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that really checks it if it has Bolt Beam coverage plus Meteor Mash. To me, at least. To me. Because if you get the attack raise with the Mega Metagross, what really comes in and takes it on? Sure, Ferrothorn. Sure, it can. But even the HP Fire set can destroy that. With a couple attack boosts, a neutral Ice Punch can do a pretty fair amount. With Rotom-Wash, Thunder Punch still does a pretty fair amount. Then Headbutt would do a fair amount. With Mega Scizor, that's the only real Pokemon that can come in and truly just check this thing entirely. But it doesn't do much in return. It really doesn't. It roosts on it. It stalls it out. I would personally actually run Brutal Swing on Scizor. And I'll show you guys what Brutal Swing is. And this is, of course, if it stays. I'll personally run Brutal Swing. It's a Technician boosted Dark type attack, which should do a pretty good amount to Mega Metagross. But regardless, I am saying pro ban because there's just so few real soft checks to me, honestly. And along with Mega Metagross getting rocks and stuff, like, that's one of the 6 Pokemon that you have to deal with on a team. If you really need, you know, a bunch of sacks and switch-ins just to deal with one Pokemon, imagine if the guy also has something like Lele, Protean Greninja, things like that. It's just, things get so broken when not only do you need to use multiple spots to cover this one Pokemon, but then a team is just filled with those same Pokemon. So at one point, yeah, you knock out, you know, say you knock out Mega Metagross. Great, now you had to deal with Scarf Lele cleaning up, or you had to deal with Protean Greninja, Mega Metacam, things like that. You know, it's not healthy for the metagame. So to me, it's one of the more cancerous threats in the metagame. It's fun, it's great, I think it's really fun to use, but there's no skill involved to using it. It knocks out most of the metagame, and it's just so unhealthy because the whole metagame is so centralized on this one Pokemon. But anyway, we're gonna start with the if banned, what really increases as a result of its banning. And let's start with Tapu Lele. Now, I did put broken in its name because I think if Mega Metagross does indeed get banned, then Tapu Lele is the new central metagame threat. The reason for this is Psychic Surge means that that priority attacks can't hit it, and Psychic type moves are very strongly increased. The reason it's not used right now, or as much as it probably could be, is because Mega Metagross walls it, comes in, Meteor Mash destroys it. And while it does get Shadow Ball and stuff, most of the time Tapu Lele is choice Specs or choice Scarf. And most people do have another steel type or another Pokemon in general that will switch in on Lele, purely just to make sure that, you know, it doesn't knock out Gross, it doesn't knock out Lando, big physical threats, because this thing has fair Spadef bulk. So without a big, strong steel type to knock out Tapu Lele, and in addition to Psychic Surge, this thing can absolutely run Modest Specs. It can run Scarf. You can even run Modest Scarf. Who cares? It can be a Stall Breaker set. It's so good without Mega Metagross being a steel type to switch in. And it has so many strong moves. Psyshock and Psychic as its main stabs, along with Moonblast. Nature's Madness is great. Phytanium Z Focus Blast is really good. It's one thing that I personally like to use on switching in Ferrothorn, switching in Mega Metagrosses, things like that. Things that come in on it, Phytanium Z Focus Blast does a lot with. But I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but without Mega Metagross, this thing sincerely just dominates the rest of the metagame. And along with, like, say, Spike Stacking would be great with Tapu Lele. Just Hazard Stacking in general is just stupid with Tapu Lele. Next up, we do have Mega Alakazam. I have this on the rise as well, and I'd love to see it used in tandem with Tapu Lele, as I saw in the pre-bank meta. I played a lot of pre-bank. I got like top 150 on the ladder or something, before people really realized that Mega Metagross is absolutely broken. These two in tandem with each other is absolutely crazy. But the reason I have this on the rise is because Bullet Punch did so much to Alakazam. And even if you did successfully get Alakazam in, with Trace, it only traced, say, Tough Claws, which is one thing that makes Mega Metagross so strong. And it can't use that ability. Along with that, Priority in general just destroyed it. The one way you really stop Priority is with Psychic Surge. But the thing is that this thing can get whittled down pretty easily. It doesn't have reliable recovery. Mega Metagross comes in and just destroys it with a Meteor Mash. So when this thing gets shut down, then Mega Alakazam kind of gets shut down as well. Bullet Punch does a stupid amount. Honestly, I didn't go in to check the calcs, but I know it does well over 80%, which is just absolutely stupid. At least to like the special sweeper set, which most people run, like who runs defensive. But anyway, it does a stupid amount. It does an absolutely stupid amount. And with the one check to Priority being walled by Metagross in general, Alakazam doesn't fare too well. Once it Mega Evolves, additionally, because it won't have the Magic Guard ability, Rocks wears it down. It does have reliable recovery, but you can't reliably recover when you're losing 80-90% to a Priority move. So I think that if Metagross is gone, that's one less thing to really take this on, and then it rises definitely along with Tapu Lele. Psychic Surge makes it stronger and pretty much takes down the one form of attack besides a Choice Scarf user that easily takes down Mega Alakazam. Next up, I do say Tapu Bulu kind of gets a little rise. The reason for this is because, while Mega Scizor does take care of it as well, Meteor Mash, yet again, you see a theme here? Meteor Mash and Bullet Punch 1000% for sure knocks out most Bulus, unless it was really bulky or really defensive. I've seen a little rise, at least to me, in the Sub-Seed variant of Tapu Bulu, which I think is one of its more viable sets. But with being knocked out so easily by Bullet Punch, by Meteor Mash, Tapu Bulu really lost its relevance. And another thing is, because Grassy Surge does weaken the effectiveness of ground-type moves, if you brought it in, you had a tougher time killing Mega Metagross, because that's one of its weaknesses. At the end of the day, I just see Tapu Bulu really rising. In all honesty, I can't say that would purely be because of Mega Metagross, but I think people will test it out more as a result of Mega Metagross being banned, and people will start using it more just purely as a kind of a novelty item. Yet again, Grassy Surge is really, really nice for, say, Excadrill, which can get walled by Metagross. without Sand Rush. Let's see here, what else really gets helped out by that? Magearna, Magnezone, Marowak, etc. Some of these Pokemon can actually take on Mega Metagross, but they need Grassy Surge to do it. But yet again, here we go again. If this thing just dies to Meteor Mash or Bullet Punch, then what's the point even having it if you're literally just sacking it? So we're gonna move on here. I think all three of these are kind of the case. As with Mega Pinsir, I love Mega Pinsir, one of my favorite Pokemon. To me, Mega Pinsir bounces up because it has one less wall, one less offensive wall. Now we all know that Mega Metagross does outspeed Mega Pinsir by about 11 points, especially if this thing's adamant. Now, if Metagross is adamant, then Pinsir does outspeed. The issue is it doesn't do much with that outspeeding. It really doesn't. Earthquake is the strongest attack it can really use on Mega Metagross to make it, regret switching in. Otherwise, typical moves such as Return, Quick Attack, Feint, even Close Combat, Double Edge, they don't do much to a Steel type. They just don't. And in the case with say Scizor or Ferrothorn, which are two different Steel types, they take neutral damage at least from these now flying stab moves. Whereas with Metagross, you straight up just don't take a lot. You just don't. In addition, Bullet Punch doesn't do a ton to Mega Pinsir. If I remember correctly, it can do anywhere from like 39 to 45 or something. But Meteor Mash absolutely takes it down. Because it outspeeds, because Mega Metagross outspeeds, it can Thunder Punch, it can Ice Punch, it can Meteor Mash. All these things, and if not knock out the Pinsir, really do a number to it and make sure that it doesn't really have an impact on the game anymore. So without Mega Metagross, that's one less thing to kill Pinsir. That's one less thing to really wall it. And when you look at the OU metagame, if we look around here, there's really not that many Mons. Like, just look. There's so few that truly wall Mega Pinsir outside of Metagross. Like, you can say, Mawile can wall it to some degree because it's also a Steel type. You can say Sableye does. Rotom-Wash to some degree. Toxapex can without Swords Dance. You can say all those, and Priority kind of wall it. Celesteela is probably the number one wall to Pinsir. But they don't really, like, all those walls, if you've noticed, don't really have offensive potential. Most of them really don't. So Mega Pinsir gets a huge rise. People have to use walls to block it, and then offensive potential in these walls, because they're so low, just, they make sure Mega Pinsirs run more and more. So then it makes the teams as a whole less of a threat. Like, I know Mega Mawile is a threat. I know Celesteela is a threat. But Rotom-Wash isn't that big a deal. Skarmory, pretty much, it can get destroyed pretty quickly. Sableye can kind of wall, no offensive potential, no offensive pressure whatsoever. Toxapex, no offensive pressure whatsoever. So you kind of go down the list there. And to me, Mega Pinsir just does great without a fast Steel type to kill it. Next up, we do have Dragonite. The reason I picked Dragonite is because Ice Punch is so annoying for Dragonite. It gets outsped by Mega Metagross. Multiscale helps, but not a ton with the Ice Punch. Like, you get knocked down to about half, I believe. And if you switch in on rocks, then this thing's dead. Additionally, the only moves it really had to knock out Metagross include these right here: Fire Blast, Fire Punch, Flamethrower, Earthquake. Honestly, that was it. Yet again, this is kind of the same thing with Pinsir. That's one less Steel type to wall of Dragonite. So with say with Ferrothorn, with Scizor, Fire Punch is kind of becoming standard on Dragonite. So if you run the Dragonium Z set, so like Outrage Dragonium Z or Dragonclaw Dragonium C, CZ, or even Flyinium Z Fly, those take neutral damage. Fire Punch is standard. It does double damage, 4 times damage on both of those. Dragon is still a really great stab despite all the fairy types in the meta right now. Earthquake can take on Tapu Koko. Yet again, Fire Punch can take on Bulu, things like that. Dragonite just loses one really great counter to it. Of course, if Dragonite is +1, +2, it takes on Metagross easily. Of course it does, because it's boosted. But the issue with that is how the metagame kind of is right now, with all the speed, with Greninja, Ash Greninja, with Mega Metagross, etc., etc. It doesn't really have a great chance to set up. You'll notice that in the case of, say, Volcarona, the Pokemon in this case, like Ferrothorn and Scizor, aren't special walls, so they have to switch out in order to come into a wall that can maybe beat Volcarona. It just so happens that Volcarona has one of the best boosting moves in the game in Quiver Dance. So that's the big reason something like Volcarona does great. Dragonite doesn't fare too well, but without Mega Metagross, I believe it will do fantastic. Kyurem, more or less the same thing. Ice and Dragon both resisted by Metagross. So the only way it really hits is, neutral Fusion Bolt with Earth Power, Earthquake. Does it even get Earthquake? I'm not even sure if it gets Earthquake. Shadow Claw if you're a real man. Brutal Swing if you're that stupid. Things like that. At the end of the day, things like that. And it gets outsped. It's faster than Dragonite, but not faster than Metagross. I believe it might even speed tie with Mega Metagross if it's adamant. So it doesn't serve a use. Without Mega Metagross, it is the same thing again with Ferrothorn, Scizor, things like that are possible walls. It has Blizzard. It can run HP Fire. It can run let's see, what other fire moves? I'm gonna look this up right now. I mean HP Fire, I guess, but it can run just strong moves. Ferrothorn takes neutral from Ice Beam. I don't think you'd keep a Kyurem-Black in on a Scizor regardless, unless you're under a sub or something. But the point is that this thing takes on walls super well. The thing with Metagross is that it's bulky enough to take 1 to 2 hits from all of these mons, and then revenge it. It's just such and it doesn't even have to. If it has an agility up, it doesn't take hits. It just kills you immediately. One more ice type is Weavile. Sure, Weavile does have a dark type stab, and that's great because it's a stab move that's super effective to the Mega Metagross. Bullet Punch just destroys it. Weavile is super strong, but I believe Mega Metagross tanks literally any one hit unless it's like Life Orb Foul Play, and just destroys this thing. So without Mega Metagross, this thing's great. Yet again, it's not taking on Scizor. It's not really taking on Rotom-Wash, although Knockoff is great. And that's the thing, I forgot to kind of mention the other walls for this, like Psyshock for AV Tangrowth, Psyshock for AV Tangrowth. Woodhammer does a lot to everything. Mega Horn even for AV Tangrowth. Let's see, what else does it have? Super Power to hit Scizor neutrally, and Ferrothorn super effectively. All these have moves that take on common walls to Metagross, and get destroyed by Metagross itself, which is the issue. And that includes Weavile. Although you're not keeping it in on a Scizor, you're absolutely having perhaps Low Kick for Ferrothorn. You're having Knockoff for anything that comes in that includes things like Rotom-Wash. Of course, something like Icicle Crash does a billion to Tangrowth. I'll show you some of the walls I have here. Obviously, these Bisharp, it's like Sucker Punch damage, Mew, etc., etc. All these have great moves for it, and because of this, if banned, I believe all these Pokemon become real OU threats, and you'll probably see Dragonite and Kyurem-Black, and even Weavile. Is Weavile OU or BL? Yeah. You'll see these three come out of Borderline, in my opinion, because they take on everything so well. Except for, of course, Mega Metagross. That's the big theme of this whole thing, how these things get walled by Mega Metagross, then instantly revenge killed. So now, if it stays, these are probably the best checks to Mega Metagross. Now, I want to point out Bisharp. I said Adamant Life Orb on the rise. This is because Adamant Life Orb Sucker Punch, and I did have the calc up, does 88 max of this. It does like anywhere from like I believe like 82 to 88. I don't know. I don't want to check because I might be on like Discord or YouTube or something else that I don't really want to click off of. But the point is, Sucker Punch can do 88 max Adamant Life Orb with Bisharp. Now, while obviously that might not be enough to kill a Metagross, and it's definitely not enough without a crit to OHKO it, if you bring it in on, if you get you know, a spike or some rocks up, and you force a couple switches, all of a sudden Metagross is mortal. And for that reason, Bisharp's really nice with Sucker Punch and Life Orb. And this thing's UU right now. I honestly don't see why, because this thing's great in hyper offense and just in general. I know it doesn't do great against fairies, but overall I do think this thing's really nice. And it is one, it's definitely not a wall. It's definitely not a wall or even a check. It might take a Meteor Mash, it might take a Thunder Punch or an Ice Punch. But you're not switching it on, you know, really anything else. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind, because all these are actual defensive checks to Mega Metagross, while this one's just more of an offensive switch in, try revenge kill. You can even run Pursuit. I'm sure Pursuit does about the same amount actually, because it becomes base 80 if it switches out. Anyway, moving on. Ferrothorn is great with the Rocky Helmet with the ability to spike stack. Forces for sure a switch out of Mega Metagross unless it is boosted to like +1, +2. And then Ice Punch is doing a pretty fair amount, but with a Rocky Helmet plus Leech Seed plus Spikes or Stealth Rock plus Protect, of course this thing is going to slowly wear down Mega Metagross. Mega Metagross, as I said, can run an HP Fire set. I prefer HP Fire, actually, because all of its checks are weak to fire pretty much, except for like Rotom-Wash, which people don't seem to be using a lot for Metagross. But yeah, Ferrothorn, while it's used a pretty good amount already, if we have to just, you know, suck it up and deal with Mega Metagross until another suspect test occurs, Ferrothorn's going to see a big rise to make sure that that Metagross doesn't go absolutely out of control. Additionally, Rotom-Wash. Rotom-Wash is really great because it resists all stab moves with the exception of Zen Headbutt. Thunder Punch obviously is something you can run on Mega Metagross. It'll do neutral damage. It's not super effective. Zen Headbutt will do a crap ton. But the reason I have these two moves on here is because one of these two moves is absolutely required. Probably not both, but at least one you have to stop Metagross. Thunder Wave obviously cripples it with speed. Will-O-Wisp halves its attack. I would probably prefer Thunder Wave personally. And then I'd run something like, let's see here. I'd probably run Hydro Pump, Pain Split, Volt Switch, something like that. I feel like that's a really good set with lefties and a little bit, like a good defensive investment and a little bit of Spadef and HP. But anyway, that's the set I personally run. But Rotom-Wash is really nice because it resists most moves that Metagross runs. I don't feel like most people run Zen Headbutt on Metagross a lot. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't see it a lot. What I normally see is something along the lines of Meteor Mash, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and either Bullet Punch, Earthquake, HP Fire, or like Agility. That's what I see most of the time, like 90% of the time on the ladder. And HP Fire is rising in popularity. But anyway, that is why, to me, Rotom is really nice. Next up, we have Scizor, the tried and true method of stopping this beast that is Mega Metagross. This resists everything. It resists, like, literally everything, which is why the HP Fire set is coming up. Earthquake doesn't do a lot. Resistant Headbutt, Meteor Mash, Ice Punch. Thunder Punch does an okay amount, but if you're defensive, you don't care. This thing obviously has a Roost. It can run Swords Dance. And even for the sake of beating stupid Metagross, I would totally run Brutal Swing. I would absolutely run Brutal Swing. I have before. It's nice. It's stupid. It's only for one Pokemon. But if you really don't have another counter to it, I'd do it. I really would. And even so, this would probably be the set I run now. This is probably the set I would run now. Run something like Tapu Fini as a defogger. Look at this. This is great. This is perfect. Run something like Tapu Fini as a defogger. Roost U-turn, Brutal Swing does a good amount. Not a great amount. I'll have to calc that and I'll put it in the description. But it doesn't do a great amount, but a fair amount. Pretty fair amount. Look at this, 338 attack. It does alright. It's super effective. But anyway, this is the tried and true method of at least walling a Metagross for a couple turns before it crits you or gets an attack raise. Roost is great because obviously you just wipe off whatever it does to you. U-turn, really slow U-turn to get something in like, say, a Greninja. Overall, absolutely love Scizor. It's the best counter. It sincerely, to me, is the best counter to Mega Metagross and one people really like to use. It's been on the rise, but if Mega Metagross, I can't say that. If Mega Metagross is staying, Scizor is seeing an even bigger increase in usage. Another thing is defensive Rocky Helmet Tangrowth. Rocky Helmet is required for Mega. Oh my gosh, I can't say it. I keep saying Metagross, because it doesn't have access to reliable recovery. Now, along with this, with Tangrowth, I would say you run HP Fire personally. HP Fire or Earthquake, because HP Fire is nice for things like Ferrothorn that also want to switch in on it, or even Scizor. But Regenerator Rocky Helmet defensive is really, really, really good for Tangrowth, for Metagross, because you can take a couple hits, you can Giga Drain, you can Earthquake, you can switch out into something else, like Word to Scizor, Word to Rotom-Wash, come back in, have, like, what was it, 33 or 25% more health? Let's see, 33% more health. That's fine. That's a hit or two. Ice Punch isn't doing a lot if you're max defense and max HP. It's not. So at the end of the day, Tangrowth is pretty good too. Not as good as probably Scizor and Ferrothorn, because those two automatically stall or chip it down, especially with Iron Barbs. But still a pretty good set. We've gone over this, and lastly, Mew. Now, Mew takes every single attack that Mega Metagross has neutrally, with the exception of Zen Headbutt that it resists, and Pursuit. Now, this thing's really nice because you can run so much on it. I'm not sure if can you run Counter? You can absolutely run Counter. Counter's great. Run Counter. You can run Counter. You can run. I put Will-O-Wisp defensive. Will-O-Wisp defensive, something like Soft Boiled, Seismic Toss, or Psychic, U-Turn, Defog. Pick your play here. Foul Play. I'm honestly not sure how much that does, but you can do that. Flamethrower, etc., etc. The point is, this thing is so versatile that you can run it as a Metagross counter and then something else. You can run it as your Defogger and your way to cripple Metagross. You can run it as... I can't even think of anything else, because I normally use Mew in a defensive sense. Yeah, things like that. I'm gonna leave it there, because I don't really know what to say about Mew, because it's so versatile. I can't just leave it in one role. Although this is probably the role I'd like to use it with. Like, this is the set I would run, plus defense and some HP, and, probably max, and then something like U-turn and leftovers. But, yeah, this thing's a great check. Overall, if I had to rank them, I'd probably say this is 1, 2, tie for 3, 4, and 5, because this thing comes in a very offensive sense. Now, after this suspect test, and I think this is really depending on how this suspect test goes, this is what I think will go next. I think Protean or Ash Greninja are next up on the chopping block for sure, because they're just so, you can't stop it. It's not a water type. Greninja's not a water type, and I've heard people like Joey say it, like Gator say it, like Envy say it. It's not a water type. It's a fire type. It's a ground type. It's a poison type. It's a bug type. It's whatever you want it to be. And while that's fun to play with, it's the same thing as Metagross. It's super fun to play with. It's not healthy. It's just not, because it comes in and Tapu Fini, which is supposed to wall it, gets killed by a gunk shot, or loses 81% to a gunk shot, or dies to to acid downpour. Gunk shot. Spike set, it can sweep, it can be scarf. And even Ash Greninja, the spec set, just like your switch-in is Tapu Fini, water resist, and the X button. That's about it. That's it. So I think Greninja's absolutely up next. It has the ability to run any moves to take on its own counters, and then you can spend the whole game trying to scout what it is. Like, you'll know literally by the time it clicks a move if it's Protean or Ash, but you don't know what moves it'll have when it is Protean. And you might spend a whole game sacking a bunch of mons trying to make sure that your win con doesn't get destroyed by this thing. So to me, that's what's next. I think if Mega Metagross, I finally said it right. If it stays in, I think you're going to see an influx in Battle Bond Dark Pulse for sure, like Specs, because that's one way to do a crap ton to Metagross and actually check it. You sack or you get a slow U-turn off with Scizor, and you just blow it away. So I think if Metagross stays, we have a kind of prolonged time of Greninja staying. But if it goes, and I do feel like Mega Metagross is going to go, then Greninja is probably up next. Now, in response to that, I feel like these two are pretty interchangeable, but I'd probably say Lele first. I'd probably say Greninja first. Lele, with one less offensive steel type to take it on, as I said before, is stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Psychic Surge, the ability to run Specs, Calm Mind, Stall Break, HP Fire, Shadow Ball, Psyshock, Energy Ball, Focus Blast, Vitinium Z, Focus Blast. It doesn't have counters after you take away the offensive steel type. It does not. I mean, there's not much to say. It doesn't have great defensive bulk, but that's the thing. You can run Scarf, and most physical attacking mons can't touch you. Most cannot. Most are weak to Moonblast. Most are weak to Psyshock, HP Fire, something along those lines. And what you'll see more often in Take on Lele is a terrain war. You'll see people switch in something like AV Tapu Bulu to get away from the Psychic Surge and put up grassy terrain. You'll see people put up Tapu Koko and like suicide to death. Suicide to death. That's stupid. You'll see like Calm Mind Finny coming in, getting Misty terrain up and just spamming Nature's Madness until it dies. Calm Mind doesn't run Nature's Madness, but you see my point. You'll see a lot of terrain wars, and the problem with that is Ferrothorn comes in on every single one. You're going to see Lele, Ferrothorn, and something like Mega Alakazam very quickly, in my opinion, at least. Right after Mega Metagross is gone. And the counters to that are Scarf Protean Greninja, with like Dark Pulse and Fire Blast, HP Fire, U-Turn, Gunk Shot, and that's pretty much it. That's really it, because Ferrothorn takes on the counters of Zam and Lele extraordinarily well. So Trick Room is a good counter, but there's not many Trick Room players on the ladder. So what are you gonna do about that? Tapu Koko. Now this is a very niche kind of suspect to me. I'm kind of going off what other experts have said, just because it supplies so much momentum. Electric Surge makes Thunderbolt, even though its special attack max uninvested is only 289, or max no positive nature is only 289. Life Orb Thunderbolt does a lot to everything but like Ferrothorn and ground types. HP Ice takes down Zygarde. Well, not takes it down, but does a good amount to Zygarde, does a good amount to Lando. Scarf is very viable. It has U-turn, so it can't get trapped by Dougie most of the time. People are running U-turn less, because I feel like Dougie is used a lot less. But it has that capability to not be trapped by Dugtrio. And then Dugtrio takes damage on the U-turn, and things go bad from there. So the point is, it does have very few counters. HP Fire can be run. Flyinium Z can be run. And if you think that's a joke, it's not. It does a good amount to a lot of Pokemon. To me, Tapu Koko does probably get a suspect test at one point, and it probably stays, but it gets one nonetheless. And lastly, Hoopa-Unbound is so stupid in a metagame without Mega Metagross. And let me tell you why. No Bullet Punch, no abuse of the low defense. There isn't one. Yet again, priority moves do great. Bug types destroy this. But Scarf Hoopa, really it can destroy a lot of things. And when you wear down a Lele, if a Lele isn't Scarf, Hoopa comes in and just destroys it with like Hyperspace Fury. Yeah, Hyperspace Fury has Gunk Shot, Destiny Bond. Its special attack is base 170 and its attack is base 160. You can run mixed. You can absolutely run mixed. Its SPDF is pretty bulky. Its HP isn't the best, but the point is you can run Scarf, you can run Band, you can run Specs, you can run maybe even AV. And as long as you aren't getting hit by U-turns, this thing comes in and kills stuff. It just does. And without yet another offensive check to it, Hoopa absolutely destroys the metagame. As I said, no Scarf Lele or Modest. Well, I mean, this thing doesn't outspeed Modest, does it? I don't believe it does. No, it definitely does not. Yeah, no, it does not. But Scarf. Okay, not my point. But if someone does not have a Scarf Lele, this thing comes in and kills everything. It's stupid. And I think Hoopa-Unbound, because of that, will probably get its own suspect test. It probably will. And the reason I'm saying things like Mega Mawile don't is because Lele is going to be broken as a result of Metagross's ban. So things like Sucker Punch aren't going to work with Mega Mawile. Mega Mawile gets a lot of kills based off Sucker Punch. And then its SPDF isn't bad, but you can wear this thing down to some degree. It has a lot of weaknesses. It has fire, it has earth, ground. Steel is even neutral. I guess that's about it. But I mean, it gets hit by a lot of things for neutral or super effective damage. It doesn't resist stuff. It resists rock. It's immune to poison, and then fairy and bug. Like, okay, great. Allow me to kill it with everything humanly possible. And then in addition with Psychic Surge, it's just not, I can go on and on about how Psychic Surge screws a lot of Pokemon. But yeah, that's about it for my discussion. Allow me to preface this by saying I kind of came up with this on the fly like 20 minutes ago, or whenever I wasn't talking. So these are just my own projections. This isn't, this shouldn't be regarded as pure truth. These are my projections, what I think is going to go on. And I did this because A, I kind of like analyzing the metagame, and B, I really do want to help people out who are playing this. So if you guys do agree with me, if you guys think I could do some work, like, if I could do some more research, if you guys have anything to say to me, please comment. If you guys want to see more content, like I'm going to be doing a lot more lives because school's coming out, things like that. Subscribe as well, like this video. I love doing discussions, and I'll have a panel next time. I asked some people in the MLP if they want to do this. A lot of people are busy, so I decided to do it myself. But if you guys want things like that, just let me know. Tell me what you guys think about this. Tell me what you guys think will be broken, what will be used more as a result of Metagross being banned, or if it stays. Tell me what you guys think of Metagross in general, if it should be banned or if it should stay. Just let me know. I'm excited. I have a lot of alts, including Mamo Just Wins, Kip Up, Dependent Variable, Biscuit Spartan, Biscuit Roman, etc, etc. I don't know why those are things, but those are like my cringy like Minecraft names from before. But anyway, not the point. You guys can contact me in any way. Let me know what you guys think. Don't take this as truth because I'm just speculating here. But I hope this helped you out. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I will talk to you guys soon.